Hey, I'm John Greaves III. I'm the founder of Garage Gym Life, and like many of you, I see a ton of kettlebell related information every single day from social media to websites. It is everywhere. In fact, there's almost too much information, and there are so many different options when it comes to purchasing a kettlebell. You've got adjustable kettlebells, powder coated kettlebells, competition kettlebells. You've even got Christmas ornaments and kettlebell plush toys like this. So I wanted to give you guys the best information possible, and I reached out to somebody that knows a lot more about kettlebells than I do. It's Chad Price, and Chad is one of the co-founders of Kettlebell Kings, which is one of the largest manufacturers of high quality competition and training kettlebells in the world. Chad has been embedded in the kettlebell world since before 2012 when they founded Kettlebell King. So he was the perfect person to reach out to, and he drops a lot of knowledge in this interview. Everything from how to select the correct kettlebell for yourself as a beginner to how to switch from training kettlebells to competition kettlebells when you reach that part of your training journey. So let's go ahead and jump into this interview with Chad right after this. Hey guys, we're gonna go back to the video you were watching in just a second, but I just wanna give you a quick reminder that Garage Gym Life Media is sponsored by you. We don't have any big names backing us. Instead, you are the reason why we can do what we do. And the easiest way for you to support us and help us to continue to do that is by visiting our merch store, which you can find by going to the bottom of this video right there and checking out our store shelf. We have merch like this that's got a home gym perspective, as well as motivational shirts like this, which are good for fitness lovers, no matter whether they have a home gym or not. But regardless of which shirt you choose, just know that when you shop our store, you are helping us bring you live streams as well as the freshest home gym content available. As always, thank you for your support. A lot of times when someone is trying to pick out a kettlebell for fitness, when I started with the home gym, there wasn't enough information. This is like back in 2001. Now there's too much information. It's like a fire hose. And so I'm coming to you to just from the perspective of someone. Let's start with someone maybe who's new to kettlebell training and just looking for the best beginner kettlebell. You guys have a bunch of different options on your website. What's the best place for somebody to start if they just want to get they just want to get in shape and they heard that kettlebells were a good way to do it?
Sure. I mean, we have a lot of different questions like that. Obviously, owning a kettlebell company, I think that's probably one of the more frequently asked questions is how do you choose the right size kettlebell? So we have a few different articles and blog pieces that even speak to helping you choose the right size kettlebell. If you're a beginner with kettlebells in general, you want to get something lighter that's going to allow you to get your form correct, especially in the initial stages. You don't really want to get anything too heavy that's going to, cause you damage or any kind of injury while you're just trying to get the technique down. So we always recommend starting light. Kettlebells are not one of those things that, you should only have one. You can always buy a heavier once you're ready,
Right.
once you're ready for it. So typically start with like an 8 kg is a good starting point, especially for people who haven't been lifting. If
Right.
you're a good lifter, you could probably start with a 12 kg, 20 kg, because you could still use those bells once you get that form down. You can still use those bells for more isolated and different movements like that.
Well, I mean, even more basic than that, because that was good information, but I'm talking about like in types. So when I first started training with kettlebells, the adjustable kettlebell wasn't out there yet. Now I've heard good and bad things about adjustable kettlebells, but what I got was a set of some cheap kettlebells, and very soon after I got them, they weren't powder coated. They started to chip, and so I started to get I was like, thank God for calluses because they would have cut my hand. Be honest with you. I mean, I'm gonna say that you're smiling, so you know what I'm talking about, right? So I was like, okay, later for that. So let's just start with the basics. What pros and cons I've heard both ways. What do you think about the adjustable kettlebell? I know you guys sell them, but just for a beginner, especially.
I mean, I think adjustable kettlebells are good. If you're looking to get into more complicated movements like flows and overhead movements and things like that, then maybe an adjustable kettlebell is not the only place to start. But if you're looking just to kind of get the feel for a kettlebell, have something that's multi-purpose, then an adjustable kettlebell is a decent way to go. At
So
Kettlebell
like if you're
King,
just gonna be doing like swings and maybe like some kettlebell, like floor press and things like that,
yeah,
an
yeah,
adjustable's
exactly.
fine. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we typically, if you're really trying to get your form and technique down, And, we are more of a kettlebell enthusiast, kettlebell purist company than most.
Yeah.
We
Hence
try
the
to see
name.
hence the name. So we try to see ourselves as really leaning more towards the experts in how they like to see traditional kettlebells used. So
Okay.
if you're a beginner from that sense, I would definitely start with the powder coat. The mistake most people make when they buy their first kettlebells, they go buy, one of these cheap kettlebells from Dick's or Academy, and they have the same issues that you're referring to, where
I feel personally attacked.
there's seams on the bells, there's chipping, and that
Yep.
really takes away from the lifting or from your initial experience with the tool in general. So one of the things we pride ourselves on is trying to really make sure that grip is as smooth as possible and it's ergonomic. If there's ever any issue with the grip, we replace those bells immediately, because we want you to train, the same way you would as if you were an Olympic athlete. We want you to be able to kind of have a tool that's going to assist you in growing your abilities, not hinder you or like you say, damage your skin or damage
Yeah.
you in any part.
Okay, so that we just covered the adjustables, and you said you kind of like to go with what the experts go with. Unfortunately, it's like there's not a consensus with them either. So
Yeah,
you see where I'm
yeah,
going. So
yeah,
let's just because you've got, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like let's say the ferocity of the debate varies between the people who are interested in kettlebell sport, Jiria, and then people who are interested in just fitness, kettlebells for fitness. Just briefly describe some of the differences between a kettlebell that's for sport and one that's for, well, let's just say training. Like if you're going to do something like strong first.
yeah. I mean, we have to, play the neutral ground between the kettlebell sport world and the hardstyle
Okay.
world, and we're
Yeah.
well aware of the different philosophies and different kind of passionate viewpoints that people have. Let's just say that nicely. But we don't look at it as a tool that has to be boxed in. So if you're using it for kettlebell sport, then we try to look at ourselves like the Spalding of kettlebell sport. We want to
Okay.
provide the highest quality product that world renowned lifters can go out and break records with, and it's a tool that we want to be set apart from our competitors and have the highest quality that's available in the world. When you talk about the hard style, I think that's more traditional fitness or general fitness. So you're
Yeah.
not really having as many competitions, and you're not training to go for a PR necessarily. You're more training for functional fitness and general health and wellness, and just kind of adding it as a maybe even to your fitness
Yeah.
portfolio or to your exercise portfolio. So I think there is no right or wrong when it comes to that. We try to give you two different paths to go down. So if you are interested in the fitness path, we work with the top fitness organizations. We sponsor all of their events. We give out bells constantly to people in those fields. So if that is something you're interested in, we have videos that steer you directly towards improving on that specifically. But then if you're already using dumbbells, or if you're already working out with barbells, we also have more of the hard style stuff, and I think that's where the powder coat kettlebell comes in. And if you're talking about kind of from a volume perspective, more people usually are interested in the powder coat kettlebell and the hard style, but that doesn't mean that the enthusiasts aren't there when it comes to sport. I mean, some of our biggest fans are kettlebell sport enthusiasts, and they're pretty rabid about that industry.
I noticed. I mean, so again, and I'm really making this like we used to say the Marine Corps Barney style, because I want to make this accessible without insulting anybody who already knows all this stuff. I want to make sure that a beginner can understand what I say one of their differences. So, for example, a competition kettlebell is basically going to be the same size. Okay, whether it's the lightest one from the lightest to the heaviest, it's going to be the same size. The space in the handle area is going to be about the same size. Whereas with a non-competition kettlebell, a fitness kettlebell, your diameter is going to change. So like my 14 is a lot smaller than my 48. All right. And so the way the kettlebell operates around your body changes because of the volume of it. it's like, I don't know, I don't want to say like it's like almost like holding a softball versus holding a cannonball
Yeah.
on your in your hand. And so other than things like that, what are some differences between the two styles of kettlebell that somebody might want to know if they're, let's say they're familiar with the fitness style, they want to go to the competition style now? What are some things that they need to keep in mind while they're trying to make these purchases?
I think if you get into kettlebells long enough, you eventually will work your way over to the competition kettlebells because they are a higher quality product in general.
Okay.
They are designed specifically to do as many reps as possible in a 10-minute window or in 30-minute window, whatever your competitive window is. And
Okay.
so even if you're doing hard style exercises, you can still use the competition bell to do that. The benefit of the competition bell is the fact that like you say, the shell or the actual bell itself, the window, all of that's going to be the same size from 8 kilograms all the way up to 48 kilograms. And that allows you to perfect your technique and perfect the placement of the bell on your arm or hand or however you have it
Right.
per exercise. It allows you to perfect that and really make progress when you're increasing weight. So more similar to your typical used to with a barbell where you're just adding plates. So
Right.
the competition kettlebell allows you to gain that aspect of that part of the lifting. Whereas when you're improving with a powder coat belt, you're actually changing your form somewhat as you increase in weight. You're having
100%.
to change your grip somewhat because the actual handle itself is actually fatter for the 48 kilogram versus the 8 kilogram or what have you. So there's a lot of subtle differences when you're going up in weight in the powder coat versus going up in the competition. And I think that's why the competition is it is still looked at as kind of a more premium product than a cast iron powder coat kettlebell.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% because so when I first got into bench pressing, not bench pressing, I do that too. If
Yeah.
you're trying bench pressing, I noticed when there wasn't really a big difference between the 36 and the 40. It's like 42, I think. But when I got to from 44 to 48 was huge.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it almost changed my center of gravity because of what I was holding. So
exactly.
that's a really excellent point. Now your kettlebells, they're all formed, they're not like welded, you don't weld a handle on, right? They're all just like basically cast out of one solid piece.
Yeah, so that's one of the key differences you'll see. If you're going to like a retail location, you're buying a kettlebell, most of those will not be solid one cast molds. And so every bell that we have is going to be a single cast. We've had bells before where we literally take a sledgehammer to them and see how hard it is to break the handle off. And you can tell when they use a welding tool versus when it's a single cast. That single cast just allows the longevity of the bell to be so much longer, and it allows for the specifications for the weight and everything else just to be a lot better than what it would if you were kind of piecing it together. So you're just looking at a more kind of overall premium tool. And then if you're talking about the competition bells, they are single cast as well, and they are single cast to weight specifically by controlling the density of the bell. So basically the bell is more or less hollow on the inside, which allows you to make weight, but it's still all single cast steel.
That's actually where I was going with that question, because I mean, without giving away like proprietary secrets or whatever, like I could tell you I had to kill you, but I want to live. So I'm saying what you basically fill it up with stuff to make sure that it makes because they're also calibrated. So you have to fill it with, if it's shot or marbles, whatever, you fill it up with something that makes up that weight difference. Similar to what there's in the strongman community, there's a product called the Stone of Steel, and you fill it up with plates to make up the weight that you want, but the diameter of the stone itself doesn't change. That's the general idea with the competition ones. Am I correct?
Not 100%. We have different series. So with it, I'll start with the powder coat. With the powder coat, you're looking at a solid piece of iron, and that's a cast iron solid piece of iron. That iron is usually, it is cast to a certain way, And then to make it make weight, you'll see they'll have to shave some off the bottom of the bell. So the bell at
Okay.
the bottom, right? They can shave, let's say, a quarter of an
Because it's
inch.
flat on the bottom anyway.
It's flat on the bottom anyway, right? You try to get those molds perfect to make the weight, and then you shave. And that's why when you're seeing those powder coats, they have to be different sizes. So we're talking about the shell of the competition being the same size. The powder coat has to be those different sizes every time. The competition bell is actually hollow on the inside completely. So if you turn your bell over and you look at the 8 kilogram, there's almost nothing on the inside. It's a very thin shell with almost nothing on the inside. If you were to look at the 48 kilogram, it would be completely solid. And that's
Okay.
no fillers, there's no shot, there's no anything like that. That's all just specifically cast steel to make that specific weight. So it's
I
more
got
or
you.
less metal on the inside. But then we do have our American competition kettlebell, which is more of a hybrid bell, which is a hybrid between, let's say, the powder coat and the sport bell. So it's going to have a more ergonomic shape. It's going to have that same shell, but that one is actually filled more or less with something on the inside. So we kind of have three different options right now. The
Okay.
most expensive is to cast the steel specifically to weight, because there's not much room for error. So the competition bells that are used, when it says it's 32 kilograms, it has to be 32 kilograms of steel
Right.
specifically, nothing else, no sand, no shot, anything like that.
I have to commend you guys, because as I said, I've got one of your kettlebells. That's actually the 48 I have is actually yours. And I was really impressed because you hear all these things. I've experienced with companies that import from China where their quality control is not up to par. And without going into who they are, I want to commend you guys and focus instead on the fact that even though you guys import from overseas, I was really, really impressed by the quality of the kettlebell. I mean, people don't understand some of the logistics involved with quality control when you're on a different continent from where your stuff is being made. How difficult is it for you guys to ensure that every single kettlebell meets your standard?
I think it's something as a company that we decided to do kind of from the beginning. Is, we want to be a premium brand. We would go just like anybody else to Academy or to any of these other locations and see the kettlebell section, and we'd be just like appalled with the quality that's in there. And this is what people would call a kettlebell. So from the beginning, we wanted to source the best kettlebells in the world.
Okay.
That was kind of one of the core functions of our jobs initially, and it hasn't changed in the last 10 years. That's still what we do every day, is try to guarantee that as a company we can hold that standard. We don't always get that standard. We've gotten entire containers that we've had to reject
Hmm.
and take losses on just because it doesn't meet the standards that we try to set as a company. So I think for us, it's just always been trying to set that standard, trying to look at it as a competition. We want to have higher quality than every other brand that's out there. So it's a never-ending journey for us to keep that effort moving forward.
What are you looking for when you inspect a kettlebell?
I think the first thing you want to look for is just the actual cast itself. A lot of people will try to paint over, let's say, a bad cast, and it's really hard to do that. So if the original cast is not done well, so if you're seeing seams or pitting, which is holes or kind of defects in the actual mold making process
Like
itself.
around where the handle touches the ball of the
Yeah,
bell?
yeah,
Okay.
especially where the handle. I mean, if it's
Right.
on the base of the bell, you can get away with it a lot more. In kettlebell sport, not as much, because you are sitting the bell on your forearms, and you're doing longer reps or longer exercises where even the smallest kind of defect can kind of tear into your skin. But for the most part, it's where you have to grip the bell. You want to look at that. And so, underneath the bottom where your hand holds it underneath, you'll find seams in there on a lot of cheaply made bells. But then from that point, I would just look for the coating itself. If it feels good in your hand, if you may need chalk, if it feels a little bit slippery to you. So, you might want to invest in some type of chalk to use with your bell. And I think lastly would just be if there's any chipping. So when you're looking at a coating itself, the coating should come off if there's impact. Like, there's nothing that's going to be completely bulletproof and it doesn't come off. If you hit it hard enough, it'll come off. But what it shouldn't do is flake off. So you shouldn't have big chunks that come off at once. It should
Right.
more rub off, if that makes sense. It
Yeah,
should
yeah,
look like
yeah,
an abrasion more than a flake. And I think
yeah.
that's what we try to look for in our belts.
Just again, from a beginner standpoint, would you say that you need anything besides chalk to train with kettlebells? I know that you sell like a wrist guard or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Is that something you recommend for a beginner?
there are wrist guards out there. Your If you speak to a trainer, he's going to tell you to put the wrist guard away.
Yeah,
He's
just
going to
suck
tell
it
you,
up.
yeah, suck it up, work on your technique. And I think that is probably a
Well, hold on.
more
Let me not to cut you off, but when I say I shouldn't have said suck it up, but it's a technique that's like if you punch through, you really don't need the wrist guard. Is that what you're saying?
you should not need a wrist guard. Yes, that is
Okay.
that is the correct statement. You should not need a wrist guard. But there are people who will need longer to learn the lesson of, you know, using the correct technique than others. And a wrist guard can prevent you from having temporary injuries. I think a lot of times where people need wrist guards also is because they're using a weight that's too heavy for them initially,
Hmm.
and they just need to go down in weight.
Okay.
But then that's another thing that, we talked about the competition bells. The competition bells are great for beginners because it allows you to lift a larger bell. Like the 8 kilogram competition bell is the same size as, like I say, the
Oh,
48
I got
kilogram.
you.
So you get your
So it's like a
technique down.
training plate for Olympic weight.
It's exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
got you.
It's like a training plate. And I
Okay.
think that works extremely well. So we've been seeing that lately with large classes, especially women's classes, where everyone's just starting with an 8 kilogram, and it's super hard. It's already big enough to really not bang into your forearm. Whereas the smaller powder coat, if you let it slip, it's a little denser. So it
Yeah.
can swing and, and bruise you up a little bit. But if you're watching, we have so many YouTube videos, and we tell people all the time, just, Google it, YouTube it, watch several how-to videos, and I think you'll be fine in just learning how to not hit your wrist. I mean, there are videos dedicated specifically to not hitting your wrist using a kettlebell, and I think that's
Yeah.
probably your best bet when you're starting.
So are there any accessories besides the kettlebell that you would recommend? Like kettlebells are very portable. I like to take them with me. A lot of people like to take them with they're going to the beach, so take a kettlebell with them. Are there like, I don't know, bags to put your kettlebell in? Is it like what accessories do you need?
If you're transporting your kettlebell, there's if you have several kettlebells, there's definitely techniques to doing that. So once again, I'd look up videos on doing
Videos.
that. So like, yeah, 2x4s, or even the casings that your kettlebell comes in. A lot of people keep those cases. So if
Okay.
if your kettlebell comes in styrofoam, keep that styrofoam. So if you need to travel, you can just wrap it back up in there,
Got you.
throw a piece of tape on it, or what have you, and
Okay.
it travels very well. They will roll around in your car if you just throw them in there loose, and I have seen damaged plastic inside of cars because of it.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, but if you're talking about general accessories, I mean, we like bands, we like ropes,
Okay.
we like anything that kind of complements the kettlebell. So, I probably shouldn't say this, but I even use kettlebells with dumbbells,
Okay.
as well. So I don't think like it's a one or the other. We look
Right.
at we look at it as kind of a centerpiece if that's something that you're interested in. It's a more interactive way to exercises versus your traditional static exercises that you would do in a normal gym. So um, anything you like to do outdoors, anything you like to do that's more of a flow, more of a uh, on your feet movement type of exercise, we think kettlebells pair well with. So uh, MMA stuff, they go really well
Yeah.
with. So
Absolutely.
like shadow boxing, heavy bag stuff. Anything like that, all of those things we think are great complements to working out with your kettlebell.
I even like some of the applications I've seen Kelly Starrett use for kettlebells. With free commercial, I guess, for Kelly Starrett. Not that he needs me. Where like you take the kettlebell and you put it in the seam of your hip. I'm a big fan of that one. Where you
Yeah,
actually use the kettlebell itself as a mobility tool. I'm a
yeah.
fan of putting the kettlebell on my chest when I'm on a foam roller to help open me up, especially like I did it yesterday before I bench press. So yeah, I think that it's an awesome tool. One thing I want to make sure I touch on is that you've got not just you've got a 33 millimeter as well as the 35 millimeter handles. The three is that more for women for I'm sorry, handle diameter. Is that more
It,
for women or for kids or something like that?
no, when we originally got into the kettlebell world, we didn't consider ourselves experts at all. I have a background in sports. I played college football. My other partner played college football as well. So I have a background in fitness in general, but not necessarily kettlebell sport. And so we
Okay.
really started working with the top lifters in the world and the top two organizations in America. One of those organizations is the Orange Kettlebell Club out of California. And then American Kettlebell Alliance is another organization that's based out of Florida now. They basically throw the majority, if not all, of the major kettlebell sport events. Some
Okay.
of those lifters have different preferences. Some of them like lifting with 35 millimeter, which
Okay.
is going to be just a little wider handle
Okay.
than the 33 millimeter. We don't necessarily have a preference on which one that the organizations choose to go with or make the official bells of their organizations. Right now, those are the 35 millimeter. That's the ones they're using. But there has been discussions, and there are other organizations in the world that use the 33 millimeter. So for us, it's about having whatever the best lifters in the world need. So if your organization decides to switch the handle to a 33 millimeter, we're already there and ready for it. Some people who aren't competing, they like the 33 millimeter better. So you mentioned women liking the 33 millimeter. That's definitely seems to be the case. It's more
Yeah.
comfortable for them. But if they have to compete with the 35, then that's just what they have to compete
It
with.
is what it
So
is. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, man, you gave me a ton of information. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I know it was short, but fortunately, you guys heard Chad say a lot of times, hey, there's a YouTube channel you guys can go check out. There's a website. So, Chad, if somebody wants to find out more, or if they are, interested in purchasing products from your website, how can they get in touch with you guys, see what's going on with you guys? You've got a lot of training that people can sign up to do with your company. So just, what would be the best place that they can go to if they want to find out more about Kettlebell Kings to get plugged in?
Our website, kettlebellkings.com, is always a good place to start. But then we're very active on our social channels. So if you're talking about YouTube, Instagram, YouTube is going to have all of our instructional videos, all of our, you're going to have free workouts on there. We even do live workouts on there. So if you're looking for kind of live follow along, we're doing that probably 4 to 5 times a week at this point. And those are free to tune in. But then if you follow us on social media like Instagram, you're going to get all of the news and updates. And not only the news and updates, but you'll get introduced to a community of people where, you can kind of look at our site like the sports center of the kettlebell world, where, if there's something going on in the kettlebell space, it'll be on our social feed, and you can click on our links, follow our link tree and get more information.